wa ta'ala, He attaches first to the month of Ramadan, where He says Shahru Ramadan, and then right away He talks about the Quran. And we're just gonna read a hadith or two about how important and valuable the Quran is, as to why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would attach the Quran to the month of Ramadan and say that it's revealed in this month, so we can have an appreciation for it and really understand why we need to stick with it. عن أبي أمامة رضي الله عنه قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول اقرأوا القرآن فإنه يأتي يوم القيامة شفيعا لأصحابه. رواه مسلم. Abu Umama radiallahu anhu narrates that I heard the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam saying, recite the Quran, because it will come on the day of judgment as an intercessor for its companion. Narrated by Muslim. So the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam over here tells us that the Quran is a lawyer on the day of judgment for those people that recite it. Over here, anytime we get in trouble with Allah, or somebody that gets in trouble with Allah, they go try to find the best lawyer, so especially if the person's more guilty than not guilty. They will try to get the most expensive lawyer to get out of imprisonment, to get out of getting in trouble by the law. And they spend a lot of money on that to make sure that they don't. Lawyers, in these times, some of them don't even have that morality to actually speak the truth. They would at times even make up lies. Obviously, there's ones that don't do that and have a sense of moral code, but there are ones that don't. When it comes to the day of judgment, we have the Quran who only speaks the truth. Astaq al Hadith. And the Quran is the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and in another hadith it explains that whatever the Quran asks for, it's going to get. So if we can get the Quran to be next to us on the day of judgment, arguing for our side, then it's guaranteed success. There's no chance of ever getting a loss, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying, no, I don't accept your intercession. It's accepted intercession. And over here the Prophet ﷺ says the cause of that is the recitation of the Quran. So even this, it's not even connected to becoming a hafiz of Quran, or spending a lot more time than maybe we have to do it. It's just establishing a relationship with the Quran to recite it on a consistent basis. The next hadith is somewhat similar. We'll just read it just because of its connection to this one. عن النواس بن سمعان رضي الله عنه قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول يؤتى يوم القيامة بالقرآن وأهله الذين كانوا يعملون به في الدنيا تقدمه سورة البقرة وآل عمران تحاجان عن صاحبهما. رواه مسلم. An-Nawas ibn Sam'an radiallahu anhu narrates that I heard the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam saying, the Quran will be brought on the day of judgment along with its people who used to act on it in this dunya, in this world. The two surahs that will be leading it is Surah Al-Baqarah and Surah Al-Imran. And those two surahs will be arguing for their companion, narrated by Muslim. So over here in this hadith, it's the real purpose of the Quran is to act on it. And over here, يَعْمَلُونَ بِهِ, they act on the Quran. This is one of the characteristics of the Prophet ﷺ when he was asked to describe the characteristics of him. Aisha radiallahu anha said that he was a walking Quran. Means all of his actions, when you see him, all it does is resemble the Quran, because whatever the Quran said to do, the Prophet ﷺ would do it. Whatever the Quran said not to do, the Prophet ﷺ would not do it. So he acted on it to the point where if somebody watches him, they're watching the actions, the commandments of the Quran walk past them. And that also like is there for us to understand that we have to not just recite it or listen to it, but the whole purpose of the Quran is there for us to become better people through it, and that's only done through actions. Now we are in Salat, the recitation that we're doing in place of Taraweeh that's online. We've been, we're about to finish Surah Al-Baqarah, and then we'll continue with Surah Al Imran. And these are the second and third surah in the Quran after Surah Al Fatiha. So these two surahs, they have so much. It's one of the two longest surahs in the Quran, and there's so much reward attributed in the recitation of certain parts of the Quran. Ayatul Kursi is there, the last two verses of Surah Al Baqarah, the last few verses of Surah Al Imran, and there's so much within these two surahs that whoever recites them, they're not going to lose at all. And to the point where in the Quran just shows how, in this hadith, it shows how important these two surahs are. It says that these two surahs are leading everybody else. Everything else, it's ahead. Surah Al-Baqarah and Surah Al-Imran. That imagine if someone is reciting these two, obviously they're probably reciting the rest. Because if we make a habit of just only reciting the short surahs, which is towards the end of the Quran, then what we'll do is we'll neglect everything else, all the rest of the beauty within the Quran, all the rest of the art, commandments, understanding, philosophy, whatever that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us in the Quran, the history that's there, the lessons, we'll miss it all because we're just constantly reciting the few surahs in the back. But if we're reciting the first two in the front, then most likely we'll be reciting the rest because these are the two longest surahs. So we have to make a habit that whatever, sometimes I know in salawat, salat al-fard, we are sometimes leading the salah where the imam, and the Prophet ﷺ says you have to make it light. And also sometimes you don't have a lot of time, it's between work, between classes. So you recite short surahs and there's nothing wrong with that. Just make sure that as you recite them, as you recite the short surahs, you're also giving the salah its right, means pausing and doing every position correctly. But when it comes to actual recitation of the Quran, we have to separate that from the salah. It's not that we just recited the Quran, a few surahs in the salah, and we consider that the recitation. No, we establish another relationship, which is we're making khatm al-Quran, we're reciting the Quran from beginning to end on a regular basis. This regular basis can depend on every single individual according to their ability. Now, what your goal should be, every single individual, the regular person, their goal should be that I will finish one juz'ah of Quran, one part of the Quran, and there's 30 parts, one part of it every 30 to 45 minutes. And if my reading isn't as fluent right now, then what I'll do is I'll give that time, 30 to 45 minutes every day to recite. And the beauty of the Quran is, although it's something that's recited and memorized, it's a bit different because we don't treat it like knowledge that's just memorized. The Quran is more of compared to a physical activity. For example, you could if you want to get good at shooting free throws in basketball, you shoot, and then after a while, you start to get better at it. And you keep doing it, you keep shooting more and more, you get better at it. But then, if you stop doing it, even though you were very good, 90% free throw shot, but then you leave it for a while, you start to decrease. You don't stay at that 90. Whereas other knowledge, like if you know certain formulas in math, you know certain concept in science, even if you don't go over it for a while, you still remember it. But the Quran is more, we always compare it to a physical activity, whether it's like working out, you work out, you get healthy, you get your physique builds up, but then you stop working out, it starts to decrease again. Your strength starts to decrease, your physique starts to change. So the Quran is that way, and that's why the Prophet ﷺ compares it to that in the Hadith by saying that it is like a camel. You tie it, it will stay with you. You don't tie it, it's just gonna walk away. So we have to remember that okay, now I have to build a relationship with the Quran on a consistent basis. And if I do have this goal that I want to make Khatm al-Quran on a regular basis, then a goal would be to finish the Quran, one juz'ah, about 20 pages in the Quran, every 20 to 30, 45 minutes. And if that's my goal, and I'm able to do that every day in Ramadan, outside of Ramadan, because 30 to 40 minutes isn't that much time, and we're getting a lot out of it. It's a very good investment. So if we're able to do that, then we'll be making Khatm al-Quran, we'll be finishing the Quran every month. And in this 30 to 45 minutes, I'm not saying that we read fast, like we don't know, we can't even hear or understand what we're trying to say. The reason why I said 30 to 45 minutes is you can recite like one of those qaris that we're playing at nighttime online, and it'll take you about 30 to 45 minutes. But you recite it beautifully, you recite it slowly. And when you do that, then you're finishing the Quran every month. You yourself, by doing this every month, if we can get our kids to do this at a very young age, and we just put that much pressure on them, not more, not too much. If they have the ability to do more or the time, perfect, let them. But if they don't, we just give them this kind of assignment. They'll make Khatm al-Quran 10 years old, 15 years old, going into high school. They still have the habit within college. They have so much time. They will be spending roughly about 10 years doing Khatm al-Quran once a month. They will have accidentally memorized majority of the Quran. That after college, if they have a 6 month break before until they get their job, they can say, you know what, let me try to memorize all of this. And they'll be able to memorize it very quickly. So we should set that kind of goal, and to recite the Quran on a regular basis and establish that kind of relationship with the Quran where we're always reciting it. It's always guiding us. And then after all, we just get so good at it, we can start learning some meanings and try to listen to some different scholars. Be like, oh, I wonder what this surah is about. And start listening to not only the recitation, reciting it ourselves, but now we're adding meaning to it. And then we're adding interpretation to it, when the stories behind it. And then that's where we get this love and understanding of the Quran, which it can really guide us in this world. All the hardships that we may go through, all these different confusing situations that we may go through, Quran will just ease all those for us. That's why if we look at this month of Ramadan and we just see how valuable it is, the first thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala attaches to it is we reveal the Quran in it. And it's a blessed month. It's a beautiful month, a month of rewards, a month of gaining good, so much to do, and we stay away from the opposite, which is bad or even more conduct. We stay away from all those, and everyone changes. Everyone pushes themselves to do more in this month. And understanding that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that blessed month, the Quran is attached to it. The blessing comes from the Quran, the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we have the Quran with us. And this Quran, if we keep it next to us in this world, it will be next to us on the Day of Judgment. And it will be right there, acting like a lawyer, arguing for our favor, saying, oh Allah, this person recited me. This person acted on me. I'm your words. Allow this person to go to paradise. And it's accepted. There's no even question or anything about it. That's the words of Allah asking Allah to admit this person into paradise. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for all of us. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us for all of our shortcomings. Jazakumullah khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.